Goodness. All right, hey guys, Danielle Matthews here. I'm coming to you live from Florida. At least I've been trying to. I'm having Wi-Fi issues this morning. If you are seeing this, please let me know that you're here because I've tried about 10 times to get on live. And I see Christy, I see Sean. Okay, I'm seeing some people over on Instagram, Facebook. Let me know when you're here. For those of you that are new to my content, I help people on a healing journey, turn their darkest moments into stepping stones for growth. And one of the things that I love doing is a book club. So every Monday for months now, we've been gathering to discuss various books. The first book we went through was The Power of Intention by Wayne Dyer. Hey Marie, thanks for letting me know. Okay, so we're on all platforms now. Goodness, that was ridiculous. This week and the next few months, we're talking about The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. And we've been through the intro in chapter 1. If you've missed that, catch the replays. Guys, it's been incredible. This book is like the secrets to everything. Hey Lou, good to see you. Hey Juliet, hey Charlotte. Yeah, guys, let me know when you're here and put in where you live. Also, it's fun to see where this community is dialing in from. So we got to just jump right into it today because I'm 5 minutes late because of my Wi-Fi issues. So if you're not already in Telegram, make sure you ask me. Just put a note. I can get you the Telegram chat. It's called Enlightened Minds. So it's nice. Stacy's in Las Vegas, Arizona. I see a Nashville. I'm in Florida. I would like to make sure everybody's in Telegram because like I shot a note to everybody that said, hey, I'm coming, but Wi-Fi is an issue, so I'm going to be late today. All right, we've got Indiana. We've got, I think that's the UK. Yes, Angela, I'm learning all of the flags of the world. Yes, Ross and Robin, this is also on Facebook. Hey, Sean in Maryland. I'm coming to Maryland this weekend, doing a crab feast. We got Mississippi. We got another Floridian. We have another Arizonan. Nice. So many of you this morning. We've got about 16 of us here. Let's dive in. So this chapter was all about the way out of pain. And I love how he writes this book because he's basically asking, or he's answering questions. So these common questions that he's gotten as a spiritual teacher. Candy says, good things come to those who wait. I'm glad you made it. Yes, me too. And I'm glad you all waited. This first thing like really drew me in. He says, create no more pain in the present moment. Nobody's life is entirely free of pain and sorrow. Isn't it a question of learning to live with them rather than trying to avoid them? So the average person is saying to Eckhart Tolle, like, hang on a second, like there's always pain, there's always sorrow. So how can I avoid it? Isn't it about learning to live with it? And he says the greater part of human pain is unnecessary. It is self-created as long as the unobserved mind runs your life. The pain that you create now is always some form of non-acceptance, some form of unconscious resistance to what is. I know that my spiritual teacher says all the time, you're looking at life through the lens of your past. He calls it the memory graveyard of your past. And if you're looking at life through that lens and then something happens, you kind of bump it up against the memories, right? That mind that you are not, the glasses that we're looking through. And we say, ooh, that's a painful thing. Or, ooh, this has happened before. I don't like this. And, this is going to lead to something sorrowful. Or this is sad that this person has passed away. Or whatever it might be. Because we bump it up against our experiences. We're not just seeing what is for what it is. We're seeing it through the lens of some painful stuff in the past. And what he's saying is drop that. What every spiritual teacher will tell you is just drop your past. Let the past go. In that moment when it rears its head, just say, no, we're not doing this, and be present with what is. It's incredibly freeing. Very difficult to do, but incredibly freeing. And when you can just be with what is, that's where you bring consciousness to the moment. It's like shining light in a dark room. Like this is when all of a sudden, all the crazy chatter of the mind and all the things it has to say can start to drop away, and you can just see what is for what it is. He says, why does the mind habitually deny or resist the now? It's interesting to consider, like he paints out this picture with animals. He's got some good visuals in this book. He says, think about the earth if there was no people on it. Like there's just trees and there's just eagles and there's just nature, right? We know that animals, plants, they're in line with the divine always. They don't have a mind like we do. The mind is what makes us human. But they're always just totally in alignment. And if you were to ask them, what's the date today? Like, can you imagine asking an eagle this? Like, it would look at you and, what do you mean, what is the date today? Like, the only thing that matters is right now. Like, right in this moment is all that matters. I don't care about tomorrow. I don't care about yesterday. Like, they're so present. We, because of our mind, because of this thing that makes us human, it causes us to have reality, to have time, and to compare stuff to how things happened in our past or how we want things to be in our future. And what he's saying in this chapter is, that's what's making you miserable. That is what is bringing you pain. He says, realize deeply that the present moment is all you will ever have. Always say yes to the present moment. What could be more futile, more insane than to create inner resistance to something that already is? You know, they talk about, what do they say? Don't cry over spilled milk. Like, the milk already spilled. Whether or not it should have spilled or whatever, like, you can get into a conflict with that, but you're just taking away your own peace. You know, when you just accept what is, and this is key, acceptance doesn't mean condoning. And I think this is where this teaching gets like a little bit tricky, because it's like, well, how can I accept that there's people that murder people in the world? How can I accept, you know, that there's people that do bad things to dogs? How can I accept all these things that just feel so far off? Marie says, it reminds me of remembering from the last book, don't take yourself so dang seriously, and I want to feel good. Exactly. Stop taking your mind so seriously. I remember just like a month ago, I was on the way to the gym and I hit a squirrel. And I thought I missed it. Like, I had slowed down a ton. Like, I slammed the brakes on, but I had my 90-year-old neighbor in the car with me, so I couldn't like slam on the brakes because I thought I'd hurt him. So I slowed down thinking like, okay, the squirrel can get away. And I thought it had, but evidently it froze. And then as I was over top of it, decided to run. And so I hit it. I don't know how you all react when you hit an animal, if you ever have on the road. I was distraught. I saw in the rearview mirror, like, what I thought was its tail twitching. It could have been the wind. It could have been anything. But I was like, oh my God. I get to the gym and I'm like, I can't work out. I'm like, freak. Do I go back and get the squirrel? Do I go and try and save the squirrel? Do I have some Messia to give the squirrel? Like, I'm like freaking out. I can't be present. And I texted my boyfriend and I said, I'm so upset. Like, I can't believe I did this and I just want to cry, but I'm at the gym. And he said, Danielle, you just created dinner for one of the vultures. And I was like, huh? He goes, why are you upset? Like, the squirrel's dead. Life will go on. That's going to be dinner for someone else. So why are you thinking about it from the squirrel's perspective? Why don't you think about it from the vulture's perspective? Like, it's always looking for an animal that has passed. And now you've provided one. Why don't you look at it from the vulture? The vulture is saying thank you right now. The vulture has gratitude for you. It's like, and I looked at the message, and I'm like, huh. I was in such resistance to what had happened. Like, complete resistance to the fact that, well, the squirrel was hit. Like, the squirrel's dead. And I was having all this emotional triggered stuff from my mind. And someone that doesn't have the same background as me, the same mind as me, is looking at the same situation, having a very different interaction with the situation. And I thought, well, isn't this interesting? And isn't this the work, right? Accepting it doesn't mean you condone it. Accepting that the squirrel is dead doesn't mean like it's a good thing that I killed it or anything else. It's just like, well, it is what it is, and here's the reality of the situation. And now, from a space where you're not emotional, from a space where you're not being reactive, you can just kind of stand firmly and say, well, how can I act now? And that's the way you can be with everything. You know, use the squirrel as an example. Have you guys had an example like this where you've been freaking out about something and then all of a sudden somebody else gives like another way of looking at it and you go, oh, like, wait a second. You know, and that's what's being said here. Just accept what is, right? The hurricane is here. Like, you know, Fort Myers last year here in Florida got blown away by a hurricane. It would have been ridiculous to be in the aftermath of that and be upset that you got hit. Like, well, you already did. It's already here. It's already happened. Yes, you lost everything. I understand that. But being upset about the situation isn't going to change the situation. It's just going to lead to inner struggle. And this is really hard because people, oh, I'm a victim. Okay. Whether it should have, shouldn't have happened, whether you did or didn't deserve it, the fact is it happened. So now accept what is as is and figure out what move you can make. You know? Any questions with this one? Because this, to me, is everything. This is a tendency that we all have, and I think it causes a lot of stress for us. Because a lot of us have a really, really, really super hard time accepting what is as it is. Because in our minds, we want it to be differently. All right. Put a 1 in the chat if you're going to start to try and do this. Just accept it. And it's interesting to then watch the mind like with all the million things it has to say about the situation. And you realize like, I don't have to take that on, right? I don't have to see the situation through that craziness. I can let the craziness talk and I can just kind of have it over here. Yeah, Christy says she's going to start doing this. Stacy says she's going to start doing this. Wonderful. Charlotte says, yep, I agree. It's a good one. This next part, I couldn't believe. So many of you, I think, know, I shared this. I went through yoga therapy training. That's why I went to Iceland back in April on our last book club. And that's why this book club, there was a delay in starting because I was finishing my yoga therapy training. And what he talks about next is literally what I've spent the last many months like diving into deep, which is the pain body. The pain body. And he says, every emotional pain that you experience leaves behind a residue or pain that lives in you. So my reaction to that squirrel, that emotional intensity, if I don't deal with it correctly or I try and stuff it away, it will then be put somewhere in my body. And he says, anything can then trigger it, particularly if it resonates with the same pain pattern from your past. Have you noticed, high five me if you're one of these people, the people that you have the most intimate relationships with, probably husband, wife, boyfriend, girlfriend, right? Spouse. Sometimes your children. Sometimes your parents. High five me if they're the ones that trigger you. They're the ones that just know how to press your button. They just like they can just set you off. They can get you angry. They can get you into emotional states that like you've never been in at work. You've never been in with friends. Anyone else that way? Okay. Nobody? Stacy. All right, thank you, Stacy. What'd Sean say? Your boyfriend has spread the emotional processing of being the one who hit the squirrel. There needs to be a balance between being present and processing the moment. Yes, agreed, Sean. You have to allow yourself to process it. So for me, and that's what we're about to get into, was an opportunity to see like, why is this hitting up against something inside of me and not hitting up against something inside of him? And best thing I can do, this is a powerful teaching. This is exactly what this is talking about. Think about, there's like, I'm looking at my yard. There's so many different plants out there. And plants all start from a seed. And we know that, oh, you guys actually high-fived me. I love it. Karen Marie, nice. I was thinking that you put a 5 in, but I love that you put an actual high five. You guys rock. And Sean's got 2. So these seeds, right? A seed needs the right amount of nutrients. It needs the right amount of sunlight, water. It needs the right weather pattern, let's say, for it to be able to grow. And when that weather pattern shows up, that seed can sprout. Well, what he is saying, what Eckhart Tolle is saying, is that your pain body, and the yogis speak about it as what's called samskaras. There are these blockages of energy, emotional blocks that for some reason got stuck. Maybe you didn't allow yourself to feel something. Maybe something happened too soon, too fast, too quick for you to process, or you just didn't have the bandwidth to process it, or you're too young to process it. But what they say is like that emotion that was trying to run through gets stuck. And it's energy, and it just kind of keeps building on itself, and it will build into like an energy knot, and that gets lodged in your body. Eckhart Tolle calls it the pain body. This is what I've been studying with the yoga therapy, and what they say is that block is then in your system, and it can get triggered. And what he says, I'll read it again. He says, anything can trigger it, particularly if it resonates with the pain pattern from your past. So I had some pain pattern. I had something within me that was upset because I hit the squirrel. Whereas, and Sean's saying, my boyfriend has a different perspective, but he also has hit a squirrel and been totally okay with the fact, because he's like, oh, I made lunch. I'm like, what? But I have something that he doesn't have. Like, there is a seed inside of me that when the weather pattern of hitting an animal with my car comes through, it bursts up. And the trigger is the teacher, because I wouldn't have known that this unprocessed emotion was living inside of me. Right? And so I had a bigger reaction than I should have, right? Where you can have a calm reaction to like, oh man, I feel terrible that I hit the squirrel for the squirrel, but I'm glad now the vulture has lunch. You know, there's like a middle of the road reaction you can have that doesn't get you emotionally crazy. But if you've got a block, if you've got a seed, okay, David's giving me some fireworks, so this is making sense. If you've got a block and a seed, oh, he's giving me stars. Oh, nice, 100 stars. Thanks, David. That gets triggered. So mine got triggered by the squirrel. Think about what you get triggered by. Think about your most intimate relationship, and is it not true, run it through your own truth center, is it not true that situations, weather patterns are created by that person that trigger you? And they tend to know how to do it. And sometimes you're like, you must be doing this on purpose. All right, but they hit up against it a lot. And what I would say is that's this pain body. This is the attempt for your emotional body to speak to you and say, hey, process this, please. Hey, this is hung up in our system. Hey, we need to bring attention to this. Because if we don't bring attention, it just keeps hanging out, and it can actually cause dis-ease in the body. And it's pretty powerful. Sean's giving me a 100. Yeah. So the moment you observe it and you feel its energy field within you and you take your attention into it, the identification is broken, meaning all of a sudden when you bring attention to it, you realize, oh, this is a reaction from my past. This is not me. And it says a higher dimension of consciousness has now come in, which Eckhart Tolle calls presence. It's like turning a light on in a dark room. Like, you don't have to combat the darkness. You don't have to do anything with this emotion except bring the light of awareness to it. And this is like the entire thing I've been learning with yoga therapy is you go into the body where there's blockages, where there's this emotional stuff hanging out, and you bring in the light of awareness there. And it's easiest to be done when you have a facilitator with you, but you can do it yourself too. And when you shed the light of awareness on it, it's as if that light itself transmutes it. It's like the light coming in a dark room, all of a sudden the darkness is just gone. And that's what he gets into in the next pages. He talks about, how this, I absolutely loved how he actually talked about how this is like an animal trying to devour its own tail, because these emotional blockages are really detrimental to the whole system. Okay, but they get stuck and the emotional body can't do anything about it until we bring the light of consciousness to it. And so he says, but this is the power. I'm going to read this. This is page 33. He says, sustained conscious attention severs the link between the pain body and your thought processes and brings about the process of transmutation. It is as if the pain becomes fuel for the flame of your consciousness, which then burns more brightly as a result. How profound is that? So what he's saying is that emotional intensity, because it's energy and it got blocked and it's now I've been triggered because I hit the squirrel. What it's saying is when you shine the light of awareness there, because it's such a powerful block of energy, and everything is the light of consciousness, right? He's saying when you shine the energy there, it's as if that now gets released and it becomes fuel to connect you even more with consciousness, with intention, with that source, with the presence. How wild is that? I read that and I went, whoa. So this is the esoteric meaning of the ancient art of alchemy, the transmutation of base metal into gold, of suffering into consciousness. The split within is healed and you become whole again. Your responsibility then is not to create further pain. This is so powerful. Would any of you be interested in doing a yoga therapy class? Because the whole time I'm reading this, I'm like, this is what I learned. This is what I teach people to do. I have a technique that helps people do this exact thing. Would anyone be curious to do this with their own body, to find these blocks? Stacy says yes. Maybe Lou says yes. Okay, Christy says yes, exclamation. All right, I'll put a poll out in WhatsApp, or not WhatsApp, we're on Telegram. In Telegram, and we'll figure out a time to do that. If there's a handful of you that want to, I think it'd be really fun. It's like amazing. Now, I've missed some comments. So, going back. Marie says, oops, there's so much coming in. I can't keep up with it. It stinks because mine has been in my back at times. It's when I get hurt by someone or things that's about trust and betrayal. Okay, I want to hear from everybody. Where do you hold stress? So Marie, thank you for saying this. When stress happens in life or a particular thing that triggers you, your body speaks. I can nearly guarantee it. What I want to know is, because I want you all to see it, is that it's different for all of us. So where do you feel it? Where do you feel it? I used to feel it in my low back. I used to feel it in the base of my neck, both interestingly on my left side. When I was young, it used to be in my stomach. Where does it manifest for you in your physical body? When you're stressed out, what happens? Head, neck, low back, Gina says. Kim wants to do some yoga therapy. You got it, Kim. Back and neck, I'm seeing. Feel initially in the heart, but store it in my root. Yep. Upper back, Stacy is saying. Heart, Kim says. Stomach, Charlotte says. Weak in the knees, Lou says. Yep. Yeah. Isn't it interesting? I mean, just look at that. There's, how many of us are on here? 20 or so now. We all kind of have it in different areas. And back is pretty common. The stress triangle, neck, shoulders, traps. Yep. Some people it's up here. I'm in the process of creating a course to dive deep into this, because what I'm learning, it's like freeing on a soul level. When you realize how you can get this stuff that's stuck freed up without having to go into the story, without having to go into like why it happened and what trauma is stored there and having to like relive and re-trigger yourself. It's like, no, the Eastern philosophy on this is bring the light of awareness to the issue, let it be felt so it can move through. And it's so profound. I mean, so profound. Angela says her digestion, if it's acute, neck and back mostly. Yeah. So yoga therapy, amazing. I'll put it in Telegram. We'll figure out a time to do that. And I'll keep you all posted on this course. It's like in my brain. It's not on paper yet. But I just feel like everybody, like you would be the best version of you. You would not have all this junk in the way. Like all this chatter, all this everything, the stuff you're getting triggered by is gone. It's gone when you can get this stuff out of your system. All right. Oh, did you all see? This is funny. For the men listening, this is not relevant to you. But did you see he talked about PMS? Maybe some of you that you're past this phase, but I am super excited. He says he's going to talk about this later, but he says this can be an opportunity for the most powerful spiritual practice. Every month, as your hormones and before the menstrual flow, he says you can allow for rapid transmutation of all past pain. It becomes possible for women. I was like, what? I couldn't believe it. We've got an opportunity monthly, so that gives, new excitement to that. So anyway, I look forward to whenever he dives into that deeper. And I wanted to make that little side note. We're running out of time. All right, let's say this. So he then talks about the origins of fear. This is kind of where the last part of the chapter really gets into. And I want you, every time I say something that is you, put a 3 in the chat. Okay? Who has fear of loss? I do. I know sometimes I think about, oh my gosh, if something happens to my dog, I'll be so upset. If something happens to my parents, I'd be so upset. Like, who else has seen in themselves the fear of loss come through? Sean has. Gina has. Yeah. Fear of loss. How about the fear of failure? I know I work a lot in my business with the SIA. I coach a lot of people. It does not seem to matter the nationality, the religious upbringing, the anything, previous job experience. It is person to person, country to country, fear of failure. A lot of us are just so scared. Yeah, I'm seeing 3s ring up in the chat. So scared we're going to fail. What about fear of success? This surprised me because I've caught myself in this space on the way there. I'm like, how am I ever going to handle this? Oh my God, I can't do it. And I stop myself from going to the next level for fear that I won't be able to hang in. Anyone else? Yeah. Yeah, a couple of you. Okay. What about the fear of being hurt or the fear of being left out or the fear of being ignored? Anybody have that? I used to. I don't so much anymore. That one doesn't trigger me. I'm like, okay, I'll just be over here doing my thing. You do you. I'll do me. That's fine. I don't let that get to me as much as it used to, but yeah, Lou says probably also that one. I thought, did anyone else find this super interesting? Like this conversation, oh, this is big for some of you. Seeing exclamation points, lots of threes, yeah. Okay. Fear of missing out, right? They call it FOMO. That's a reason we even have an acronym for it in our vernacular, FOMO, fear of missing out, because so many people, like in sales, I also know like scarcity thinking and the fear of loss, the fear of missing out is what moves people to a buying decision. It's so fascinating to understand the human psyche, and it's just like, well, it just is what it is. But we are learning how to deal with it. So he says, the psychological condition of fear is divorced from any concrete or true immediate danger. Everything I just said, fear of loss, fear of failure, fear of success, fear of being hurt, fear of being left behind, fear of being ignored. Would you agree that all of these things are actually in your own mind? There is nothing concrete. There is not a fire being pushed into your face. It is something that your mind, he says, psychological fear is always something that might happen. This is so huge. It's not something that is happening right now. It is normal to have fear to something that is happening right now. Normal. What's not normal is to fear something that might happen. Ding, 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 Karen, that's the ego. Yeah. You are in the here and now while your mind is in the future. And this is what is creating the anxiety gap. It is because your mind, your ego, this little chatterbox that makes us human, is so worried about all these things that could maybe happen in the future that would threaten its existence that it's freaking out now. And it's causing you to be anxious now. He said, you can always cope with the present moment, but you cannot cope with something that is only a mind projection. You cannot cope with the future. Anxiety is rampant in our culture. And it's like, of course it is, because your mind will never be able to be okay with something that could potentially happen in the future because it can't do anything about it right now. So the only thing you can do about it right now is to realize, holy cow, this is the lens of fear that I'm looking through that belongs to my mind, and it's crazy chatter. It doesn't belong to me. I am the presence, and my presence does not need to shine through the lens of the ego, of this fear. This is huge. But the ego is so tricky. I mean, the examples he gave. Did you guys, like this next page was just full of examples of, I'm going to read one. I know we're going to go 5 minutes late because I was 5 minutes late. He says, watch out for any kind of defensiveness within you. What are you defending? An illusory identity, an image in your mind, a fictitious entity. By making this pattern conscious, by witnessing it, you disidentify from it. In the light of your consciousness, the unconscious pattern can then dissolve quickly. How many of you have ever gotten into a defense of yourself or I need to be right? I need to prove what I know. I need to make sure they understand I'm not that way, I'm this way. It's crazy. When you think about all the stuff that the ego does, it's like, that's the ego. And it's useless. Like, just drop it. It's not important. Who cares what somebody thinks about you? It's their mind anyway that's thinking it. It's not the light of consciousness. It's not the light of awareness. Isn't it wild? Candy said I had to get the Audible on this book so I could listen as well as read it. Plus, he has a great voice and it's easy to listen to. Nice. This was just so good. So anyone who is identified with their mind and therefore disconnected from their true power, their deeper self-rooted in being, will have fear as their constant companion. So, if you want to get rid of fear as your companion, drop the mind, drop its chatter, realize this is all BS about something in the future. You know, if you feel like, is this my intuitive voice talking or is this my ego mind talking? Is it rooted in fear? Is what's coming up a decision or a mindset or a thought based around being fearful of something in the future? If it is, it's likely the ego. It's being tricky. So just be aware of that. All right, the last thing, let me ask you this. If I were to say, type in the chat, this is just an interesting exercise. Who are you? All right, so if I say, Karen, who are you? Marie, who are you? Candy, who are you? Sean, who are you? Lou, who are you? Christy, who are you? Lynn, who are you? If I were to ask you this question, who are you? What would you say? I know for me in life, for a long time, I would, like in my early 20s, I was saying, oh, I'm a biologist. Oh, I'm a graduate of the University of Virginia. Oh, I'm a snowboarder. Oh, I'm a teacher. Oh, I'm fill in the blank. No one's writing. Are you guys afraid that this is a trick? It's not a trick. I'm just curious to know, how you describe ourselves. All right, you're not playing along. That's fine. So, who are you? Most people will say their profession. They will say their profession. They might talk about their education level. Some people will say via their relationship. So they will say, I'm a mother, I'm a sister, I'm a brother, I'm a husband. Okay? Some people will say, I'm a Christian. I'm Jewish, I'm a Muslim. They'll talk about their religion. Some people will say, I'm a Democrat, I'm a Republican. They'll talk about their politics. I'm an independent. They'll talk about their nationality. All right? Oh, I'm Italian. Oh, I'm, French. I'm whatever. They might talk about their race. Right? They might talk about their gender. This is the big one in our culture right now. And what he's saying, and what I will say also, is none of that is who you are. I don't care what you think. Julia says I'm the crazy cat lady. Right? If someone wants to lead to compassion and courage, and so I'm someone, ooh, nice. Sean is saying what she likes to do. All right. None of those things are you. Those are all your ego. Some self-construct that your mind has made. And the truth is, you're the one behind it all. You are absolutely the one behind it all. And he says at the end, at one point in your life, you will know this. And he says, you will know it at the latest when you feel death approaching. Death is a stripping away of all that is not you. When you die, it doesn't matter, Democrat, Republican, male, female, all of these things. He says, the secret to life is to die before you die and to find out that there is no death. Do you all understand the gravity of this one? What he's saying is when you come to the realization that all of these constructs of who you are in the world, how you identify yourself, is just all BS. It's constructed by this ego mind. And when you realize I am the light of awareness that is there for the whole ride of this Danielle character that's in the world. And when Danielle dies, that light of awareness is still there. You never die. This is huge. When you know this, I will tell you, I learned this because I feel like after my car accident, I died. It's strange to say, but the identity, everything that I thought I was gone. I couldn't teach, couldn't snowboard, couldn't live in the world, couldn't earn an income, couldn't do all of these things. And so I was in a place saying, well, who am I if I'm not all of this? And that's when, Eckhart Tolle had this moment of, he was like, well, who's asking the question? Who can't live with who? For me, it was the same. It was like, well, if I'm not all of those things, who am I? And I realized I'm the container within which all of these things come in and out. I'm the presence. I'm like the sky that's there no matter what's flowing in and out. And that's, as Christ says, you have to die to be reborn. The ego mind has to die. All these constructs of you have to die so you can be reborn in the truth of who you are. This is huge. So I know we went long. I'm sorry about my Wi-Fi. And we'll be back next week, guys. I'll put in the Telegram chat if you're not in there. Make sure you are. You guys are putting great things in the chat. Let me just read some of these things. The secret of life is to die before you die. Yes, Christy. I think that is that should hang on everybody's wall. Because you go, who needs to die? Oh yeah, that mind of mine. Lynn's saying, I'm a timeless being that often gets identified with this physical body and its accomplishments. Yes, we often do. It's a transition of the physical when you die. Exactly. Really good today. Beautiful. Thanks. You all are welcome. Thanks for being patient. So next week, chapter 3 is long. It's 20 pages. I don't know about you, but I don't think there's any way I can get through 20 pages in a half hour. Why don't we read 10? So page 39 to page... Let's do to page 49, where it says negativity and suffering have their roots in time. We'll stop there. All right? So for those of you with my version of my book, page 39 to the middle of page 49, where it says negativity and suffering have their roots in time. That will take us, this book is so deep. I don't know. We just 10 pages at a time seems to be how we can take it. Does that sound good to everybody? Okay. All right. Well, lots of love. Fabulous conversation. I thank you for playing along. I'm sorry that none of you got, not that I was trying to trick you, but none of you engaged with the ego-related questions. So I guess good job. You took in what the chapter said. I will see you guys next week. I'm sure I'll talk to some of you in between now and then. As always, guys, if you get value from this, share it. Share it to your page. Share it. Tag people in it. Get the awareness about this to other people. Like, this is huge. If people can understand this, maybe they don't need to join us for the whole book club, but this one talk, share it. Let people know. I would really appreciate it, and I know they would too. So, lots of love, and we'll talk soon. Bye, guys.